Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name's Megan and I'm a tarot reader, and today I've decided to give you all some tips on how to read the tarot, especially if you are a beginner. I get asked this by a lot of people who I read for and people in my life for tips on starting out, and that's what this video is going to be full of. It's a little bit dark in my apartment, but I'm kind of liking the vibe right now. I've lit some candles, it's nice and cozy and witchy, so grab a cup of tea and let's get started. So there's two different types of cards in a tarot deck. There is the Major Arcana and there is the Minor Arcana. My first set of tips is going to be all about reading the Minor Arcana because I find that's one that's a little bit harder to get a grip on. So my first tip for reading the tarot is to learn the suits. In the tarot, we have 4 different suits. We have the Pentacles, which all feature a coin with a pentagram. We have the Swords, which are swords. We have the Wands or staves, which are these long brown wands. And we have the Cups, the golden cups. So each of these suits is actually bonded with an element. So we can learn a little bit about the suits this way. The Pentacles belong with the element of earth. So they are governing all of the earthly realm. That could be our earthly possessions, our material wealth, our money in the bank, and the status of the relationships and roles we take on here on earth. For the Swords, they are the element of air. The Swords as the air element is talking all about our thoughts up in our mind. So these can be thoughts that we have about ourselves, if we ever overthink or overanalyze situations, or if we have any limiting beliefs. The Swords, I find a lot of the times in my modern reading, are talking about people's mental health, but they can also be talking about the physical health as well. The Swords as the air has that windy current, those very beautiful ups and downs. So the Swords, when they come through, are often talking about the bigger and heavier decisions, including decisions that feel like life and death. Then for the Wands is the element of fire. So our fire, our passions, what light us up. So these can be our business life, our workplace, the career that we're working in, any of our hobbies that we're turning into an entrepreneurial type of thing, that entrepreneurial spirit, and the way that we communicate and ask for our desires. So all of that is in the fire, the element of fire, the suit of Wands. And finally, we have the suit of Cups. So cups can be summed up as the element of water. We have water in the cup. We need to fill up our own cup first before we can pour from our own cup. The Cups is talking all about our relationships, our emotions, our creativity. So getting in tune with your emotions and getting in tune with you can create. That is all the element of water and the suit of Cups. So once you have that basic understanding of the suits, when you're reading tarot, either for yourself or for someone else, you have that base knowledge. When you see the card flip, you can know if it's a cup, it's likely talking about the client's emotions or their creativity. You know if it's a wand, it's likely talking about their career realm, their fiery passions, or maybe if they need to communicate something better. Each of the 4 suits have these realms that they preside over, and that is really good information to know as a beginner tarot reader, because then you're always going to have something to say. My next tip for beginners reading tarot is to learn some numerology, because every time you're pulling a tarot card, when it's from the Minor Arcana, as we're talking about at the moment, it's going to have a suit. So here we have the Cups suit. We can see the Cups are featured prominently, and it's also going to have a number. So this one is the 4 of Cups. So my advice is to learn a bit about numerology, because that way, whenever you flip the card, you're going to have 2 very concrete things to go off of. We've already talked about the suits, so you know it's a cup, you know that it's likely about emotions, and now you know it's a 4. So what can you know about 4s? That's where the numerology comes in handy. The best numerology to learn for the tarot is a little bit about each number from 1 to 10, as we have in the tarot deck. So you can learn about about this in many different places. I'll link a few resources in the description for you, but just learning a bit about each number. For instance, number 1 is usually talking about leadership. Number 2 is often talking about partnership. Number 3 is talking about our family life and growth. Number 4 is building a foundation, and so on. I could go on. Let me know if you want to watch a numerology video, because I could definitely make that for you. So in our example here, the 4 of Cups, we've already discovered with our base understanding of the suits that the Cups is about our emotions or our creativity. And now we know that it's a 4 as well. 4s are often about foundations. So if I had a querent pull the 4 of Cups from those 2 pieces of information we've already gone over, I could say that they have reached an emotional level of foundation where they're ready to accept more. And that's where we go into the visuals of the card, because your intuition will be picking up on the different visuals in the card here. In this 4 of Cups, for example, we have the person meditating beneath a tree, and a cup being offered looks like out of thin air. So they're ready to accept something new. But we know from knowing what cups represent and what 4s represent, we know that they are at an emotional foundation. They've built an emotional foundation where they're ready to accept in something new. So when you're newly reading tarot, I think it's a really great idea to practice reading for yourself. For me, that is still the hardest person to read for, because it's so difficult to remove all your biases when you are yourself and you know the outcomes you want and you know all the information of your life. But I still really recommend, when you're learning the cards, to do self-readings and to also read for your friends and loved ones who are open to that kind of thing. And this all brings me to my 3rd tip on how to read the tarot for beginners, which is to use your client's intuition. When you're reading for others, this is a really key tip. If you've ever flipped a card and you can't quite remember what it represents, if you've done that book studying but it really hasn't stuck in your mind, we know there's so much different stuff going on in the tarot card. In this one single tarot card, we have the tree. We have the person sitting under the tree. We have the colors of their clothing. Red is very prominent. We have the grass. In the background, we have a little lake. We have these 3 cups that are sitting on the ground, and then we have this one that's appearing out of thin air. That's a lot of different things to go into the symbolism. And when you're reading for a client, you're probably not going to pick apart each little symbol in the card, because instead you're wanting to click on whatever is the most resonant for that client. So I really encourage you to use your client's intuition. In my readings with clients, it is always a dialogue between our 2 intuitions. I am much more interested with what they're noticing about the card than what I know about the card from past experience. Of course, that's going to come in handy, but the very most important thing to giving them the most clear and beneficial answer to the questions is to know what is jumping out for your client. So ask them. You can actually ask them if you flip a card early in your journey when you're practicing with your friends and family. You can ask them, what are you noticing about this card? I still use this trick a lot in readings. If a lot of information's coming at me and I'm not sure what I'm meant to share, I would ask my client, does this card inspire a particular feeling in you? Is there anything that you notice in this card? How do you feel about this card? And oftentimes they will have something to say because their intuition is keyed in. For example, if they say, I noticed the tree, I noticed that the person is sitting on the tree, then I would say already how we've discovered our basic understanding of this, the 4 of Cups. I would say, well, I think that you're being called to spend some time in nature to more truly understand your emotions and get clearer on what you want. All right, so we talked a little bit about the minor arcana cards. Each suit has a card from 1 to 10, and then it has 4 court cards. For now, all I'll say about the court cards, which is the page, knight, queen, and king, is that they're often representative of actual people, human beings in our life. But I'm not going to go into the court cards today because it's just a lot of information. So let me know if you want a video on the court cards. But now I just want to touch on the major arcana. So the major arcana in the tarot has 22 cards, and they all have a very clear image and a very clear archetype. You can also use your numerology skills when you're looking at the major arcana, but it does go a little bit outside the realm of that 1 to 10. But my tip for you about the major arcana as you're starting your tarot reading journey is to understand a little bit about the hero's journey, because the major arcana really beautifully follows that classic story structure. It begins with the Fool, who doesn't know much and is very youthful, a bit naive, ready to go on an adventure. It goes through all of the different major arcana cards, and it finishes with the World card, when you are more knowing and ready to set off on a new adventure. You have achieved the world, all the things you are meant to achieve in that cycle. So if you know a little bit about story structure and the hero's journey, that can be really helpful to understand the major arcana at the beginning, because you can see what number the card is. Say it's 10, it's 17, it's 3, and you can understand, all right, that seems to be in the first act of the story where you're learning, getting your bearings, versus if it is more of an 18, 19, 20, that is when we're reaching the end, we're reaching the World card. So I'll put some resources again in the description about that structure of the hero's journey to help you with the major arcana. But don't get too stressed at the beginning. The major arcana has beautiful illustrations that are very evocative for us, and just looking at them is going to be lighting up your intuition. For example, this is the Magician card. It is the first card of the major arcana, or the second if you count the Fool, because the Fool is number 0. So the Magician, when we look at that, there's, again, so much going on in the card. There's the chalice, there's the infinity symbol, there's the flowers, there's the red robe. There's so much going on. And you can, of course, again, ask your client what's jumping out to them in a card that is so busy, such as this one. But it's pretty clear what the Magician's all about when we really think about it, right? He's about doing tricks. He is about putting on a show. He's about being magical. The Magician is about all of those things. It's about our spirituality. It's about our confidence or lack thereof to put on a show. So as you learn your major arcana, I think it's going to come to you a little bit more naturally than the minor. At least it did for me, because the images are so evocative and such clear symbols to things that we see in all different types of media in our culture. So that's why I recommend going a little deeper with the minor arcana when you're starting to read, because the majors are going to jump out at you more clearly, most likely. All right, so the next tip I have for you, my new tarot readers, is before you start your reading, make sure you are connected emotionally. Because if your intuition and your emotions are connected, you're always going to have a much more beneficial reading. So some of the things I do to get this done is I meditate for a few minutes before I do a reading for someone. That's just stripping away my day, my personal biases, so I can get up into their energy. Another thing that I like to do is cleanse myself. So this could be just taking a shower. This could be using smoke cleansing. That's what I do. I smoke cleanse all of my tools and myself with lavender. And if you are smoke cleansing before reading, I really encourage you to smoke cleanse the bottom of your feet. And this is because our feet, we're walking, they're carrying us through our life, and they are carrying a lot of energy. And for this reason, I always do my readings when they're virtual readings and I'm in the presence of my own home. I always do my readings in bare feet. And I always make sure to cleanse my feet with smoke as well as the rest of me. Another thing that I do before I start a reading is I always go through my entire tarot deck and sort it into the different suits and the major arcana, and I put it in the correct numbers before I start shuffling it. This is a personal practice, but you may find it very clearing and healing. I definitely do, because the whole time I'm sorting that deck, and it takes usually between 5 and 10 minutes, I have a clear intention of the person I'm reading for. Then I will just be saying their first name. Sometimes I will hum if a song is coming to me and thinking of their energy, and that can really connect you. This is a really good tip if you're performing virtual readings like many of us are doing right now. So I really encourage you, before you have your readings, to cleanse your energy and connect your energy and intuition. And this can be as simple as stating it. Stating out loud with your words, because our words are very powerful. I am ready to receive and pass on knowledge for blank, the person you're reading for, blank's highest good. So just saying that is a really good shortcut as well. And my final tip for you is just not to be too hard on yourself. Don't get discouraged if every time you flip a card and share the message that comes to you, it isn't received with a great knowledge. It's not like everything you're going to say because you're a tarot reader is now bestowing gospel on someone. That is not how it's going to feel at the beginning. That is not how it's going to feel all the time. There are going to be moments in the reading where you're more keyed in, where you're really downloading the information that the person needs to know, but there are also going to be moments where you're falling back on your training, on how you've learned the cards, you've learned the suits, you've learned the numerology, and you're using their intuition, and together you two are finding out the message. The important thing to remember is your guides and the guides of the person you're reading for are always going to reveal the knowledge that you are meant to have at this time. So this is really difficult sometimes when you're reading for people and they want very concrete answers because they might not be as receptive to the information that's passing through. But just be reminding yourself and reminding them that all the information they're getting is for their highest good right now. You can continue going through the cards and gathering more information for them, but just letting them know that sometimes they are not meant to understand the message's full capacity until a little bit later. I've had this happen time and time again with readings for myself and readings for others. A certain message from my reading doesn't completely land while I speak it out to the person, but then I'll have them a few hours later, a couple days later, texting me saying, oh, I understand now it's come to fruition. So the universe works in funny ways that way. Sometimes we're not supposed to understand it all in one go. We're supposed to digest it as it comes. So I hope that video was helpful for you and it gave you a springboard to really jump into the tarot. I think it's a really beautiful, intuitive art. It's taught me a lot. It's definitely the language that I most speak out of the intuitive languages. So let me know how the tips resonated with you and how your journey is going in the comments. And I would love for you to subscribe because I have more witchy tips coming up on the way. And I also do many pick a card readings if you want to tune into some of those, because bonus tip, I think a great way to learn the tarot is to actually get readings from different tarot readers so you can get a feel for what their style is, what you like about it, what you want to take and incorporate into your own practice, and it can just give you a lot of resonance and a lot of meaning about certain cards. I've definitely had readings with different readers while I myself am an experienced reader, and they will say something that I have never considered about a certain card. It really is the gift that keeps on giving in that way. So I'm wishing you a wonderful night. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. Oh my gosh. Oh well.